We're just jumping on Skype now with a couple of seconds. We've got Sam Elliott interviewing Ian Lewis, which is going to be a real time. Answer all your questions in chat. So, are we ready to hand over?
I think we are. Are you guys ready? All right, handing over to you. Here we go.
Hello everybody, hello RoboNerd. Hopefully you're enjoying the stream. I think that was fair to say it was a really good interview with Deerto. I'm joined with Ian Lewis from Team Razer. How you doing, Ian?
Yeah, doing all right, mate. Yeah, pretty good.
Excellent. Yeah. Good to hear. Obviously I'm going to take a lot of questions from the live stream as and when that comes about. But one thing I want to ask you first, which is your favourite of your two robots? Is it Warhead or is it Razer?
Well,
I know it's like trying to ask between, which is your favourite child, but like that's you got to ask these things.
Yeah, it's kind of it's one of those things. I think I kind of became more connected with Razer, I would say, on a sort of personal level. Really, it was almost like a pet dog or something.
Yeah.
And I think really that was from that real connection with the machine. It's so organic and so beautiful. And Simon and I, we put so much work into it that it was just one of those things, you just couldn't live without it after a while. And you almost took the identity on yourself. And battling with the machine in the arena, you had to really fight for your life, So
yeah.
it was a great connection. I always sort of saw Warhead really, it was a difficult kind of birth with that machine. It was a big machine that took a lot of work, about 2 years. And I think Simon and I, we did suffer a little bit with that, and it was kind of a better thing though, because it was so brutish. It was a lot easier to use and to almost smash up. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean both are phenomenal. I love them both equally. They're fantastic. One thing I also have to ask, obviously, you did come back for both reboots of both shows. Which do you prefer? Like, did you prefer the classic days or the modern days, and obviously Robot Wars and BattleBots as well? Which is your favourite era of robot combat?
I think really I preferred the early days of Robot Wars. I would say about not in the really, really early ones, because the robots were a bit unreliable, to be honest.
Razer had its fair share of breakdowns, didn't it, back in the day?
Yeah, the machines were being pulled out on bits of string and things like this. There was all sorts of tricks on there, TV tricks. But and really what you wanted was a damn good battle. So when things got going, I think by about the time, about probably the fourth and fifth, things really, third, fourth, fifth, it was really, really good. Tornado was sort of coming into their own as well, which was brilliant to challenge us, because you always want somebody to really push you on. And really the theatre of it as well, the fire, the flames, the craziness, and the sort of... just the kind of theatre of it. And BattleBots is totally sort of something different. It's almost like a hardcore American sport where, once you're there, you're immersed in something that's kind of a bit more serious. And those guys, Greg and Trey, they're great guys to be around anyway. Quite inspirational. With the early days that they did. That they wrote, I think it was like La Machine, wasn't it? They were quite simple machines, but all together quite inspiring.
Yeah. I've had a question come in from John Ray. What's your favourite fight you've been in? You mentioned Tornado. Was like, obviously you had so many fights over the years with Tornado. Like, is that something that kind of stood out for you?
Tornado did stand out. There, it was one of the greatest fights, but also one of the sort of most disappointing finishes as well, where it's something I always regret. And I was thinking about it this morning. I thought, well, I think it was the sixth one, or something like that. We were fighting. It was the classic one where we were trying to get them down the pit, and they wouldn't fit.
The frame on. The frame on.
Yeah, that's it. And if you watch that bit of footage, when we finally do get hold of them and lift them up, Vinny, I think, shouted, "You got 20 seconds to get them down the pit." And it kind of focused me on the pit. And as the machine moves, it tries to turn left, which is towards the end of the arena. Now, that would have been a better option, because we could have dumped them outside over the edge and they could have fallen off and we could have come back to the middle. I always wanted that ending, that kind of on the ropes sort of comeback. But I mean, that battle in a way, we just got beaten. We just got absolutely pounded. I mean, they had a hell of a lot of grip, more grip than us.
Yeah.
So I think one of my favourite fights that always stands out for me is certainly the result and the battle with Drillzilla.
Okay. Oh yes. Yeah.
Second World Championships. But also a really, really great one was the one with Gemini.
Right.
Which was great fun because you were fighting two machines, and a really nicely finished little machine get a hold of one, but then you got the other one coming around the back trying to tip you over. So we were guarding against that as well. So that was terrific fun. That was.
Excellent. I've had a question from Craig, one of the hosts of the stream. Actually, was Series 8 Razer, so obviously came back for the reboot, was it mostly unchanged, and what was the plan for the because you had that massive plow on the front as well, didn't you, that came back with it? Obviously carbide was in your heat. How do you think you would have fared?
Yeah, that thing, I got that made at work, and oh dear, yeah, it was like 19 kilos of steel. It was a real tough thing, and we kept it hidden under the table. And old Dave, he was pretty cocksure, as quite rightly so as well, really. But we had that thing under the table, and we were there for a bit, and then after a while we said, mate, we got something for you. Have a look at this.
Just dump on the table.
And it was quite good to see his face just drop a little bit. There was just that little bit of doubt. I don't know how it would have turned out. It would have been quite interesting, I think.
Did you want to fight them?
Yeah, I think with that device on there, it was terrific. It was all rubber mounted. It had huge mounts on, these massive rubber mounts that bolted to the sort of deck chassis of Razer and adapted. So it was like a sub-level with this huge snowplow. The only thing is, getting a lick on that head, that a Razer would probably twist it a treat, which would have been another massive repair, which, we've sort of done over the years.
Yeah, so you probably wouldn't have a spare claw lying around, would you, really?
No, always a bugbear that, that's the thing, people expect it to look beautiful all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely gorgeous looking machine. Rob Nevin asks, is there any chance of seeing a new Razer given that Spectre and Quantum have shown how effective crushers can be?
Yeah, times have moved on, and I think what's happened is certainly with Simon, he's kind of he was always sort of self-employed. We were self-employed with Razer and all that, and our ideas in the early days were we built motorized skateboards, we built mountain bike frames, go-karts, radio-controlled cars, all sorts of things, and then Robo Wars came along at the right time, and we just were totally into it, and we were kind of the same hymn sheet, you might say. Simon and I now really, we're on different churches. We're on different sort of sides of the planet, I think. We're still good friends, but we're not in sync anymore. And I would say really that what's happened is my interest in e-bikes, in designing e-bikes and model aircraft, travel, motorcycling, and all the sort of joys of life, really. I love to be out there doing my thing. And Simon's now got a business actually in skateboarding.
Okay.
And sort of skate parks, so skate park stuff like that, BMX, all that kind of retro stuff. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Question from Jimmy Cottam. What is the one robot that you never actually fought, classic or modern, who you'd actually really like to have fought?
I'd love the Coopers have always played such a big part in the story of Razer. I remember meeting James. Guy, what was he? He must have been around 16, I think, in the early days. And somebody, I can't remember who it was. Somebody sent me a picture of like a Razer machine. So there it was. That was Venom. And I thought, crikey, who's this? Who's made this? Somebody could have just made a copy and would be going around the country sort of pretending to be us or something. So I had to check this person out. And James was a great guy. So snowboarding and going on holidays and stuff like that. So it'd be great to have a fight, really between Razer, the old classic, and the Spectre machine. It's a terrific machine that they've built, and it really is very modern. It's got that super sort of modern side to it. And it's a long shot for Razer, in all honesty, because although it has got a few tricks up its sleeve and we are very good at operating it, they've got a lot of power and all that sort of thing. I do wonder, actually, if they sort of lose their nerve a little bit, if they get a bit shaky and think, oh, God, we're fighting Razer. This is
we're fighting the robot this is kind of based on.
Just nip in there and have them,
Yeah.
I do think that, I've got to say.
It would be good fun.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people kind of look at Hypnodisc as the.
Oh, you're breaking up there. I've lost you.
Oh, was that?
Back.
We're good. Bit of technical issues there. I was just saying about Hypnodisc. That was kind of the one you kind of missed from the classic series that you never actually fought. How do you think that would have gone? Yeah,
those guys are super nice guys. They I did say to those guys at one point, I said, if I had to swap Razer, I'd swap it for Hypnodisc. I really like your machine. It was a really cool sort of machine. It had its problems, like Razer did as well in its design, where I think the batteries used to get shot. But to fight those guys, they were pretty nibbleable, weren't they? They were a very, very good shape for Razer, with an edge round the side. And if you look at the new rotors these days, are sort of the carbides, the big machines in America. I mean, it's nearly all spinners out there now, isn't it? Actually, Hypnodisc of the day was quite sort of tame, really, in its day, but it's still really, really effective and very, very popular with the crowd. And that was it. I think it was a great performer. So you don't just want to go in there with a blob. You want to have two machines sort of coming in there, duking it out, and people go, right, that one's a spinner, right, that one's a biter. Which one's going to do its thing? Really, it's going to lay it out in front of everybody.
Yep, absolutely good. Good analysis, I think. Question from the Seaborg: what was the story behind Razzler, the 150-gram ant weight version of Razer? Was that good fun to put together?
Yeah, that was brilliant. That little thing. A bit of a naughty name, that really, but we got some good sponsorship with that. But yeah, that was what we used to do. We used to go down the pub after Robot Wars in the evening. We'd all go down the bar, and I can remember loads of us all piling into a pub. And some people sort of knew about Robot Wars and that it was in town, and it was filming, and they'd come and chat to you. And a couple of people, I think it was George, he built a little Chaos 2 first of all. And a couple of other people had like little ant weight things, but they were mainly adapted toys. So I thought, cool, this is good, So it was so much good fun that, just had to put one together. There was 3 servos, a 3-channel receiver, and 3 batteries inside that thing somehow, and it self-wrote as well, which was
fantastic.
A bit of a hats off to the toy makers, because they got the center of gravity pretty good.
Brilliant. Have you looked at the smaller weight classes these days? Obviously, Bugglebots has been a big success on YouTube. Would you think that, would the smaller weight classes interest you today? Maybe a Beetle weight Razer or a Warhead?
Yeah, I think people have already done it though, haven't they? They've I've seen a few things going about, and some of them are brilliant. Actually, while I was over in China, I saw a guy who showed, it was like a kind of probably a Beetle weight of Warhead, and it was an incredible blooming piece of work. Oh my God, it was so detailed. It was absolutely fantastic, and I'm not sure to what degree it worked, but it didn't half look good. It was beautifully modelled. So, yeah, I think for me, I'm kind of more into the these days. It's sad to say it, but the robot stuff is in my fond memories and my dreams. But yeah, I'm still model planes, still with the e-bikes and stuff today.
Fair enough. Question from Adam Peckett is: how did the idea for Razer kind of form in the first place? It's quite a unique design, especially at the time when a lot of things were boxes with spikes on them. Razer certainly stood out in the early series. How did that come about?
Yeah, Simon and I, we watched the show and we thought we really, really liked the show, and it was something that we were so determined to do almost from the outset. To the point that we said, right, we've got to make something that's quite eye-catching. So the British Bulldog idea came in to effect. It had a kind of a bit of a jaw on it, but it was quite a short jaw. Although it would be effective with hydraulics. Simon knew hydraulics quite well. I knew a bit about electronics, and we both would join together in the mechanical design as well. We were both very mechanically minded, like I say, with the motorized skateboards and things. So that jaw just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger in the design, until one day I sent Simon a fax through, and it just had like this big curved shape to it, like a big claw type thing. And I thought, well, it can't get any bigger than that. Could we make this thing with a lever ratio of 3:1? Nice big hydraulic ram. And we did a couple of cardboard sort of mock-ups, which were way too big. And in the end, really, we thought, right, okay, I think we can do this. We just shrink it just a little bit. It's quite a small machine, Razer, when you actually see it amongst the others, especially Mortis. Mortis is a really big machine. We were quite surprised to see it when we went to the auditions. But, and then Razer gradually sort of developed into this almost Dick Dastardly type of racing-looking machine. It's almost like there's a bit of swan in there, there's a bit of kind of reptile, there's a bit of eagle, there's a bit of the Dick Dastardly racing car from the Wacky Racers, whoever remembers that in the old days.
Mm-hmm. Question from Zero Matter 34. Where did the inspiration from Warhead's dinosaur head come from? Obviously, it kind of became your main weapon after the dome split in the later series, but how did that come about?
Yeah, it was an idea really to get back to the theatre. I think it was kind of like one last stand. We wanted to show just, Warhead's a very theatrical machine. And what we were seeing with the hardcore competition of BattleBots was, a lot of teams were coming in, being a bit boxy with their machines. I mean, very, very effective. You got to give it to them. Those machines are very effective indeed. But we're a bit sad about losing that theatre side of it, the early influences of the early Robot Wars and all that craziness that went on there. Even if you watch some of the early Robot Wars now, you think, oh, blimey, some of it was ridiculously creative and really sort of quite funny the way it worked. So, the dinosaur head was how big could we go? How crazy could we go? And I always remember when we tested that fire system on there, because when it blows, that our guy Van, he put together this incredible fire system that fired out. And we fired it in the garage, and oh dear, it was absolutely huge. Like a big wheelie bin. Imagine the volume of 2 wheelie bins just catching fire all of a sudden. It was like that. It was just ridiculous.
It certainly looked great. Absolutely looked great. I think I've got time for possibly one more, maybe 2 more. One I've got here from ESC is that a lot of people thought that Warhead did really well in its last appearance in 2018. Were you kind of disappointed to not make the top 16, or were you kind of relieved that it kind of didn't have to fight any of the really big boys and get trashed by like if it gets Minotaur, really?
Yeah, this is when the dinosaur head did its thing, really, wasn't it? We busted ahead. Yeah. It was, we were quite surprised, because we were thinking this bitey head, which was almost a little bit of a joke. It was a serious bit of kit. I mean, we made it, to be really, really, really spectacular, to be great on camera, which is what we've always been about, really.
Yep.
And it kept winning. It kept sort of going through and going through.
It was really good at the start. Like, you had such a great run, and then I think it was Whiplash, was it, you fought and ended up? It was again a good fight with Whiplash.
Big, wasn't there the big shark at some point as well?
Yes, big shark.
That was just great. That guy loved it. He was like, so we were kind of laughing amongst ourselves, in the box there when we were controlling, because just to see what was going on, it was this blooming dinosaur chasing this blooming great shark round, and it was just fantastic. And the way that thing moves as well, it's got that real swish to it. It's got that lovely, lovely sort of fish swish. And and the old dinosaur would come in and
It was honestly, it was so surreal watching like the two very arty bots fight. So you have the amazing vertical spinners that we have in BattleBots, but two designs that aren't conventional, let's say, and just great fun.
Great fun.
I think time for one more quick one. Obviously, Razer and Warhead as well, and both inspired quite a lot of people. So Ryan Brackley asks, how do you feel about Razer being so inspiring to so many people over such a long time? People can still name Razer from 20 years ago, like in the street. You could probably say, "I saw Road Wars. I remember Razer." How does that feel for you?
Yeah, do you know, it's quite surprising. It does catch me by surprise. I hurt my back last week, and I was in the chiropractor's, and there was this young mother sat there, younger than me. I'm sort of 53 now, so I got talking to her, and motorcycles, blah 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 blah. Robot Wars came into it. Oh yeah, what machine was that? And when I said Razer, her face lit up, and she said, "My kids love your thing." I was like, "God, blimey!" It's so surprising how far it reaches, and I do love that. And I think also something I really really like is go along to some of the meetings. There'll be people who've got their careers. They'll have their own business, or they've been to uni. They've become a mechanical design engineer, and really making a contribution to, the sort of the country and the technology, or running their own little business. Entrepreneur, employing a couple of guys. And they'll say, "God, I was so inspired. I watched Robot Wars, just loved Razer's battles, loved some of the other machines like Hypnodisc, Chaos 2, all fighting it out, and it inspired me so much that I ended up getting my own business." And you're like, "Cool, blimey, wow, that's really, really cool." And I think in some ways, these TV shows don't realise that that's like a massive advert in it from years ago that set somebody on what is a really good path in their life, and it's a lovely thing to see.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Ian. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys. It's been brilliant to have you. Thanks so much. Catch you later.
Right, bye.
Cheers.
Absolutely incredible talk there from Sam and Ian. I mean, we've literally just been sat at our seats watching that entire thing. That was absolutely incredible. Thank you to the both of you for jumping in pretty last minute. That was incredible. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Sam.